Imagine relaxing by your own pool on a sunny afternoon, only to have a stranger walk up and demand that you leave. Sounds ridiculous, right? Well, that's exactly what happened to Marcus, a hard-working man just trying to enjoy his day. Out of nowhere, a woman, let's just say, the type often called a Karen, marches over, insisting that he doesn't belong there. She's convinced he's trespassing, even though Marcus owns the house. At first, he thinks it's just a misunderstanding, but as the conversation goes on, it becomes clear this isn't about rules. It's about something deeper, something ugly. The tension rises, voices get louder, and just when things seem like they can't get any worse, something completely unexpected happens. You won't believe how this all unfolds. Stay tuned, because this story takes a turn no one saw coming. Marcus had been looking forward to a quiet afternoon. After a long week of work, he finally had a chance to relax in his own backyard. The pool was his escape, his peaceful retreat from the stresses of daily life. But when the woman, who introduced herself as Karen, began to insist he leave, Marcus was taken aback. He explained multiple times that he lived here, showing her his ID, but she wasn't having it. In fact, the more he tried to reason with her, the more aggressive she became. As the situation escalated, other neighbors started peeking over their fences, curious about the commotion. Some seemed hesitant to get involved, while others watched in disbelief. Marcus was starting to feel trapped. Why was she so adamant about him leaving? What was really behind her anger? It didn't make sense, and the mystery only deepened as the confrontation wore on. Marcus took a deep breath, trying to stay calm, but Karen wasn't backing down. She crossed her arms and glared at him like he was some kind of intruder. "I know the people who live here," she snapped. "You need to leave before I call the police." Marcus let out a short, disbelieving laugh. "I'm the people who live here," he said, shaking his head. He pointed to his house. "That's my name on the mailbox, my car in the driveway." But Karen wasn't listening. She pulled out her phone and started dialing. Meanwhile, a few neighbors edged closer, whispering amongst themselves. One of them, an older man named Mr. Reynolds, hesitated before stepping forward. "Karen, are you sure about this?" he asked carefully. "I think." She cut him off. "No what I'm doing." Marcus felt his stomach tighten. The situation was spiraling fast, and he had no idea what would happen next. Marcus could feel his heart pounding, but he refused to let fear or frustration take over. He had done nothing wrong. Still, the way Karen gripped her phone, eyes locked on him like she was waiting for something bad to happen, made his skin crawl. Mr. Reynolds looked uncomfortable, glancing between Marcus and Karen. "Karen, maybe you should slow down," he said again, but she ignored him, pressing the phone to her ear. "Yes, I need the police," he said, her voice sharp. "There's a man in the pool who doesn't belong here." Marcus clenched his jaw. This was unreal. He had lived in this house for years, paid for it with his hard-earned money, and yet here he was, being treated like a trespasser. Then something shifted. Another neighbor, a woman Marcus barely knew, stepped onto her porch. She called out, her voice firm. "Karen, stop. That's his house." Karen hesitated, her face tightening. But instead of backing down, she did something that left everyone stunned. For a brief moment, Karen faltered, her eyes darting to the neighbor who had just spoken. But instead of admitting she was wrong, she tightened her grip on her phone and turned away. "I don't care what you think," she snapped. "I know what I saw." Marcus exhaled sharply, trying to keep his composure. "What exactly did you see, Karen?" he asked, his voice steady but firm. "A man enjoying his own pool." Before she could answer, the sound of sirens filled the air. The police were on their way. Marcus felt a wave of frustration hit him. This had gone too far. But just as things seemed at their worst, another voice cut through the tension. "Actually, I have security footage," said a man stepping forward. It was his neighbor from across the street, holding up his phone, and it shows exactly what happened. Karen's face went pale. Everyone turned to the screen, and what they saw changed everything. Everyone crowded around as the neighbor hit play on his phone. The footage showed everything: Marcus arriving home, unlocking his own gate, setting his towel down, and peacefully getting into the pool. There was no trespassing, no suspicious behavior, just a man enjoying his backyard. Karen's expression twisted as the truth played out in front of her. The officers had just stepped out of their patrol car when Mr. Reynolds turned to them. You might want to see this before making any assumptions. One of the officers took the phone and watched for a moment before nodding. He looked at Marcus, then at Karen. "Ma'am, it's clear this man lives here," he said firmly. "There was no reason to call us." Karen's mouth opened, but no words came out. Instead of apologizing, she huffed, grabbed her purse, and stormed off without another word. Just as Marcus thought it was all over, the officer turned back to him. "Actually," he said, reaching into his pocket, "we found something else interesting about this call." Marcus frowned as the officer pulled out a small notepad. "Turns out," he said, flipping through the pages, "this isn't the first time we had a call like this from her." The crowd murmured. Mr. Reynolds sighed, shaking his head. "She's done this before." The officer nodded. "We've had multiple reports of her calling in complaints that turn out to be baseless." He turned to Marcus. "Sorry you had to go through this." Marcus exhaled, feeling the weight of the moment settle in. He wasn't surprised, but it didn't make it any less frustrating. As the officers left, a few neighbors came up, offering words of support. The woman who had spoken up earlier smiled. "We've got your back," she said. Marcus looked around at the faces of his community. Maybe this day hadn't gone how he planned, but at least now he knew who truly stood with him.